Bob's Breakfast.
We've been talking about wind-ups this morning, and Nancy, you've been the long-term victim of one.
I've been with my husband for 28 years, and for 25 of those years, I believed that he could actually tell the colour of my knickers just by feeling them. Now, I've now realised that he actually has a little sneaky peek earlier on in the day, and then he saves it for an opportune moment, and then he tells me the colour of my knickers, and I honestly believed it.
And what he's actually doing is he's copping a feel without you minding, because you think he's doing important research.
Absolutely.
And how was he found out?
Because I caught him looking, because he now has to put glasses on, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Now I've got this image that looks really pervy of a bloke putting glasses on and then sneaking a peek.
Thank you. That's exactly how I think it is.
Cigarettes will only be sold in plain packaging now.
That's right, yeah. From today. There was a big court case surrounding this as well.
Big court case surrounding this, and idiots continue to smoke.
Well, seems to be the case that the tobacco industry is still alive and well.
Which is amazing, because there is no other product that, when used exactly as the manufacturer intends it to be used, will probably kill you. Now, you can say there are lots of things that will probably kill you. Food will kill you if you eat the wrong food. Cars will kill you if you do the wrong thing. But they don't expect you to overeat. They don't expect you to drive badly when you buy a car or overeat when you buy food. Alcohol, the same thing. They don't want you to drink to excess. But cigarettes, they want you to smoke 20 a day. And that will kill you. And everybody knows that.
Absolutely.
It's not a secret.
No, you don't go into this thinking, oh, it's healthy for me.
Yeah.
It's not.
Plain packet, I don't know. It's not plain though, is it? It's got like diseased lungs and that on it.
Yeah, it's going to be green with plain font and no logos, they're saying.
I was talking about this the other day in the office, because I did used to smoke. From the age of 14 to the age of 21, I smoked.
So he kicks it in reasonably early.
Reasonably early.
Then again, you started reasonably early.
Yeah,
so.
but when I say I started at 14, I wasn't smoking 20 a day or something at 14. I was smoking seriously from 18 though. I started smoking because I wanted to appear grown up and cool. And I gave up smoking because I wanted to appear grown up and cool.
It's Bob.
I don't trust Cambridge. I went there yesterday. I'm very suspicious of a town that hates cars as much as Cambridge does. I mean, there are loads of streets you're not allowed to drive down. It's ironic that there was once a car named after this place that hates cars so much. Cambridge loves push bikes. The blinking things are everywhere. Why are they encouraging you to ride a bike instead of driving a car? For every mile you ride on a bike on the road, you're 6 times more likely to be killed than if you were driving an actual vehicle. Now, I don't believe Cambridge City Council are trying to kill its citizens and visitors. That's ridiculous. I believe the truth is much more sinister. Cambridge University was where the KGB recruited communist spies. Burgess, Philby, Maclean and Blunt all sold British military secrets to the Soviet Union. Cambridge has a dark past, rooted in communism. Is it a coincidence that they want you to ride a push bike? Think about it. Which country has the most bicycles? Red China.
This is Bob.
Strange ways you've injured yourself, inspired by the University of East Anglia, who have banned the throwing in the air of mortarboards at the graduation ceremony in case someone gets hit in the head with a mortarboard, which has happened to your friend.
It's happened to him, yeah.
Yeah, so we'd like to know daftest ways you've injured yourself. Julie?
It's actually my husband.
Mm.
So when we were both much younger, so 20-odd years ago, younger, slimmer and more flexible, I was showing him how I could put my feet in my mouth.
Okay.
So he decided that he would also do the same thing. So he sat on the floor and tried to put his toes in his mouth and dislocated his knee. So off we went to A&E.
Yeah.
And the nurses were having a bit of banter with us, and they just would not have it that he'd actually put his knee out by trying to put his toes in his mouth. They actually thought we'd been up to some, shall we say, weird position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that is how we'd actually had the injury, but it was actually genuinely trying to put his toes in his mouth.
When have you been stopped going somewhere? Chris?
I've been stopped getting into a strip club because I had a beanie on.
Really? It's unusual for a strip club to be where people aren't wearing very much to be fussy about you wearing...
Yeah.
It was a beanie hat.
Yeah, you know, the bobble hat.
A bobble hat. It's
Well,
not...
they call them beanies in Australia, don't they?
Oh, so was it in Australia this happened?
No, it's in this country in the East End.
So you're wearing a bobble hat, you try to get in the strip club and they said, I'm sorry, no, that's... So what else were you wearing? If you were only wearing a bobble hat, I kind of get that.
No, it's just, excuse me. I was wearing my work clothes.
Oh, what was your job?
A grease monkey, a mechanic.
Right, so you're wearing overalls and a bobble hat, and they said the problem was with the bobble hat.
Yeah.
Right, not with the overalls.
No, but they let me in the end.
Did they wearing overalls straight from work?
Well, I took them off and then took my beanie off.
Yeah.
And then they let me in, and I got slung out anyway because I wouldn't tip the girls.
Because you wouldn't tip the girls?
No, because, you know, they're taking their kit off and all this, that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I've never been to a strip club, but I kind of get the idea of how it works.
Yeah,
So you're expected to put fivers in their drawers, are you?
Well, yeah, something like that, but, you know, I said to the girls, I've come there for a drink and that. I said I've seen it all before now. I said,
You're a man of the world, yeah.
Innit?
Yeah, but so they wouldn't let you in, and then eventually they did, and then they kicked you out.
Yeah.
That wasn't a very good night at all then, was it?
I just went somewhere else.
Yeah, go somewhere. And it wasn't another strip club, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, it was, and they let you in and there was no problems there?
Well, at one point, it is when I was more younger back in the day.
Yeah.
We used to know all the strip clubs.
Did you really? All right, well, we're getting into the way too much information portion of the conversation, but thanks for calling, Chris.
From Global's newsroom, I'm Fiona Winchester. David Bowie has died after
an embarrassing mistake. We've all made mistakes at work. I've made loads of them. In fact, you'll probably hear a few more this morning. So I'd like to know mistakes you've made at work. Natalie.
I was photocopying some music for my students.
Yeah.
And we were studying Dido and Aeneas, and I'd done it at university, so I thought, brilliant, I can use my resources that I used myself at university when I was singing Dido and Aeneas.
Right.
So I sent it all to be photocopied, and then in our first lesson, going through the pieces, we got to a page where I, as a university student, had graffitied all over one of the pages with not only rude words, but also rude pictures. And so my class of 5 A-level students saw what myself at 21 had been drawing.
No! Let's get the latest news now with Chris Hubbard.
Controversy this morning over tickets for a street party to mark the Queen's 90th birthday in the Mall.
She never looks like she enjoys these things.
No.
Why don't they find out what she wants? She might just want to go to a harvester.
Bob's Breakfast.
Survey out today of hotels talks about some of the more unusual items left behind, including keys to a Bentley, £10,000 in cash, a mother-in-law and a Shetland pony. I'd like to know what you've left behind. Where'd you leave it? What's the story? Karen?
It's something my husband left behind.
What was it?
Our newborn baby left it in the car.
What? How did this happen?
I had a hospital appointment. She was only a couple of weeks old. He dropped me and our eldest daughter off at the hospital doors, went to park the car, and when he came to meet us at the clinic, he was empty-handed. And after a minute, I said, "Oh, and the baby?" And he said some words and ran off.
Now, I suppose if he's a brand new father, he's not into the routine of keeping his eye on the baby. Maybe you could give him that?
No, second time around. He
Oh, no, all
realised
right.
he was there.
No excuse. Do you ever let him forget it?
Yeah, we're not together now, as in the ex-husband bit, so hey-ho.
Oh, it didn't work out?
No.
Well, I'm no marriage guidance counsellor, but I would say that kind of behaviour would have had a bearing on the fact that the marriage didn't work out.
Possibly.
Bob's Breakfast.
Almost got myself thrown out of a West End theatre on Saturday night.
What were you up to?
Well, I thought it was something quite minor, but it's something they don't take too kindly to. You know, for Christmas, Julie said, "I don't want stuff, I want an experience."
Yeah.
So I got tickets to the Garrick Theatre in the West End to see a play called Red Velvet.
Okay, that's a nice theatre.
Yeah, and not a musical. This is a proper serious play. Very, very good play, by the way. Excellent. So when I have a day out, I do like to take lots of pictures and tweet them. Twit pics. So we get to the theatre, and I don't know if you saw, I tweeted a picture of the stage from our seat.
I didn't see this, no.
We're in the third row,
Yeah.
right in the middle of the stage. So almost the best seat in the house, very close to it.
You don't want to be on the front row.
Bit too close.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it was brilliant seats. So I twit-picked a picture at the beginning of these are our seats, look at this, you know. The first half of the performance starts, and I know you're not supposed to. I quickly took a picture of the actors on the stage.
Yeah.
No flash, very quickly, within seconds. It wasn't like I was taking a video or something. I just lifted up my phone, clicked, done, right? So the interval comes, and the bloke, now Julie's on my left. There's a bloke next to me on the right that hasn't said a word. Well, he disappears. We didn't need ice creams or anything. We just sat there. He comes back, and within seconds of him coming back, I hear, "Sir, sir, sir," and it's an usher.
That's never good.
And I said, "Yeah? That photograph you took, can you delete it, please?"
What?
And I went, "Yeah, all right." She went, No, can you delete it now?" All right. So I get my phone out.
Yeah.
And found the photo, and I deleted it. I said, "There you go, look, it's gone." Showed her the phone.
Yeah.
"Can you go into your deleted files and delete it from there as well?" I said, I don't even know how to do this. And the only reason why I deleted it so quickly, this is Julie's Christmas present.
Yes.
I'm not going to ruin the night out.
No, of course you're not.
Right? And there's hundreds of people in this theatre. They've come to see a show. They're getting one. I'm the show. I'm starring in a two-handed farce with this usher.
This is the halftime entertainment.
Halftime entertainment, like the Super Bowl. Like I'm Coldplay now. So I said, "I don't know how to do that." She said, "If you go into..." I'm like, "Oh, come on. This is a full-on performance."
Well,
Everybody's
clearly,
watching and
if
listening.
you're asking how to delete this, that you're not going to be using this picture in the future.
Of course,
or
I'm
whatever
not
she's
technically
worried about.
minded. Yes. So I'm farting around with it, and of course we're right in the front of the theatre. It's not like we're hidden away in the back and this is just going on quietly. This is now a lot of people craning heads from other rows, see what's going on. I'm like, and she goes, "No, you go in there." I find this file she's on about. It's all photos. So we're going there. I said, "I can't see it." She said, "It'll be at the top." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Find it at the top. Delete." I said, "There you go. Fine. Okay, thank you." So I sat down, I said to Julie, "Could you believe that?" And she's like, "No." She says, "Somebody's dobbed you in."
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, yeah, who would? And then I'm thinking the bloke next to me, who nipped out quickly and came back, he didn't come back with an ice cream, and he wasn't gone long enough to have gone to the toilet because there would have been a queue. It was definitely him.
You got a snitch in your midst.
Yes, definitely. What kind of... I was doing him no harm.
No.
I wasn't ruining it for him. Like I say, no flash, no fuss, no big deal. What's it to him? He's decided to go out of his way to potentially, because it didn't, potentially ruin the night for a total stranger. Who would do that? Ruin somebody's night? What kind of snivelling snitch would you have to be that mean-spirited that you thought, oh, that's against the rules, so I'm going to report you? What kind of a person does that? Well, I thought, well, I'm not losing, I'm going to win.
Okay. Well, he's obviously met the wrong person.
Absolutely met the wrong person. Actually, before the curtain went up, I went to Google and I Googled the play and I Googled images and I found a picture from on the stage that was taken from about where we were sat. Right. A nice picture of the play in action from the first half.
Yeah.
Almost as good as the picture I'd taken. Very similar perspective. So I downloaded it and I loaded it up onto the screen of my phone and I held it out. And I said to Julie really loudly, I'm holding the phone out at arm's length so this bloke could see it. And I went, you know what? That's the best picture I've taken in here tonight. It's better than the one I deleted. Way better. That's the best picture. I'm glad she didn't make me delete this one. But right, I'm not having that. So, curtain goes up. Second half, lights go down. Lights go down. And I notice this bloke next to me, he's got both elbows on the armrests and he's cradling his chin on it. I mean, he's really into this play.
Yes.
Right,
yeah.
and I'm thinking, well, at least 50% of that armrest is mine.
Yeah,
absolutely. At least. And I'm taking no prisoners now, if this is the way you want to play it. So I got my elbow on it, and I thought, I'll just touch his elbow. So I leaned so my elbow's touching his. How uncomfortable must that have been touching, stranger touching public? I would hate it.
Yeah.
So I'm actually just touching it and enjoying the play. So then his elbow moves a little bit. It's only a thin armrest. His elbow moves to about halfway on the armrest. So I move mine over and I'm touching again. So then his elbow comes off the armrest.
Yeah.
And he folds his arms. So I'm really onto it now. I'm really winning. So,
this is mind games.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So then I moved my foot so my shoe is touching his shoe on the floor. And that lasted about 3 seconds and he moved his foot about an inch away.
Really?
So I counted to 10 and I moved it and I got it touching again. And then he moved his foot away again. So then I knew I had him because we couldn't have been 10 minutes into the second half. He's looking at his watch.
How long have I got to sit next
This
to
guy's
him?
crazy. So I could see him looking. He's got his arms folded and he's looking at his watch. He's having his night's ruined.
Yes.
Completely ruined. And he's squashed up in the corner of his seat now, getting as far away from me as he can. So then the play finishes, and it was a great play. Standing ovation. So we're all standing up and clapping. Of course, I'm clapping with my right hand elbow right out here, nudging him here, right, every clap. There wasn't a clap I missed when he didn't get elbowed.
I bet you've never clapped so enthusiastically.
No, oh, so enthusiastically. The elbow went in, many times, 10, maybe 20 times. He literally got the elbow from me. So then I turned to Julie and said, because she's no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
She turned to her and I said, that was really good, wasn't it? She said, yeah, it was great. I turned and I looked for this other fella. He disappeared. He must have been the first person out of the theatre. Must have been.
It made me wonder what you were going to do right after the performance.
Well, if he'd have stayed, I was going to ask him could I have a selfie with him.
It's Bob.
I'm Graham Mack with your lost and found stories. What's yours, Jane?
My uncle was on the beaches at Dunkirk.
Yeah.
And he lost a St. Christopher, Gold St. Christopher.
Yeah.
Didn't think any more of it. Anyway, 30 years later, he was on a coach trip with his wife around Cyprus.
Right.
He was sat next to a fella on the coach chatting away to him. He says, I know you from somewhere. And he says, oh, I don't think so. He says, so he went for all the regiments. Still didn't know him. Anyway, he's got this St. Christopher around his neck. He said, oh, that's nice. He said, where'd you get that from? He said, I found it on the beach at Dunkirk. He
No way.
You're joking. He said, that's mine. He said, oh, really? And he's like, oh, I said, do you want it back? He said, no. He said, you've had it for 30 years. He said, you found it. He said, you keep it.
That's unbelievable. What are the chances?
I know. I couldn't believe it when he told me, but that is a true story.
Fantastic. Jane, thanks so much for your lost and found story.
Okay, thank you.
Looking for suggestions on what to have on your pancakes? Siobhan.
I have magic mushrooms on my pancakes.
Magic mushrooms, the ones that make you all trippy, like the LSD.
Yeah, the ones at the garden. Yeah.
At the garden. What do you get? Do you go on a trip? All psychedelic. Yeah, I don't think you have magic mushrooms. That's all.
Oh, they taste magic.
I don't think that's why they're called the ones that are called magic mushrooms. I don't think they're called that because of the taste.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.
This is Bob.
Scientists have discovered gravity waves. They reckon now they can see back in time and space to just after the Big Bang. Einstein predicted it 100 years ago, and now they've found evidence that he's right. And I have a theory of my own. The Graham Mack theory of everything. Inspired by the discovery of the gravity waves. Now what they're saying is they might be able to see back in time to just after the Big Bang. The Big Bang, the theory suggests that everything in the universe came from one thing. There was originally a singularity, one thing, and it exploded. And that explosion is the universe. All the bits of it, including you and me, were all stardust. It could explain my theory based on the fact that each successive generation of human beings is more stupid than the one before. My parents, I thought they were very clever. I still think they're clever. The things my dad could do, I cannot do. I could not build a garage out of bricks. I wouldn't change the oil on my own car. I wouldn't attempt some of the DIY things he does. Some of the mathematics that people can do on the fly like that, older generations. Chris Hubbard's father can do trigonometry in his head. So I will admit that I am more stupid than the people who came before. I also know that the generation younger than me are more stupid than me. You've probably found this in your own life. My theory of everything states that there is a finite amount of intelligence to go around. If we all came from the single source, there's nothing else being created. It all just comes from that one source. And human intelligence was part of that source. And now that the world is overpopulated, we've spread the total sum of intelligence much thinner than it used to be. Each generation, as the population increases, is having to take a smaller part of that intelligence. Intelligence is being watered down successive generation after generation. We are evolving in reverse. Eventually we will become amoeba. Pete, you've got something to say on this.
Graham, I want to read your book and join your cult. I couldn't agree with you more about the intelligence on this planet is becoming thinner and thinner.
It really is.
Tell me about it. I work a lot with the general public.
Yeah.
I can't believe how stupid and sometimes it's beyond belief how they're becoming brainwashed by TV. They believe that soaps are real. The characters are real.
And they talk about them as if they're real people. And they go, "Oh, did you hear what happened to?" And I've been caught out. There'll be conversations. Someone will go, "Did you hear what happened to her?" And she did this, and I'll be like earwigging, and I'll go, "Blinking heck, where's this happened?" And they've gone on Corrie.
Yeah, absolutely. I sort of get into conversations, and I sometimes think, well, am I actually from Mars? Because I don't know what's going on here.
I think we've all had a problem with delivery drivers at some point where packages have been left in obscure places. I came back from holiday, found a package in my wheelie bin, but it wasn't quite this bad. Honestly, It was bin day that week. This story, though, is quite beggars belief. A Royal Mail postman was struggling to get a vinyl record to fit through a letterbox.
I don't like where this is headed. This is a 12-inch vinyl.
This is
a 7-inch single will probably go through a letterbox.
Yep.
But 12-inch vinyl would not know.
And you know, there's normally stickers on these letters that say "Do not bend" or "fragile." Well, this guy decided to fold it in half. The woman's husband, who's been speaking in this story, ordered the record online to add to his collection of vintage records. So this was one that was probably quite expensive, to be honest. Naturally, it had the word "fragile" across the front in large red text. And the picture, I mean, it just looks awful. It rattles a lot as well.
Yeah, you would have thought he would have realised something was up when it went snap.
Yes, yeah. He ignored all the warnings to not to bend this, and all these pictures have hit the internet now of this parcel folded in half. It's not in a good way, to be perfectly honest.
In defence of the Royal Mail, and I always defend the Royal Mail because they know where I live.
Sounds sinister.
In defence of the Royal, this guy is not typical of your postman.
No.
Most postmen are brilliant.
They are, yeah.
I tried to test them once and got into a lot of trouble. You hear about this in Birmingham?
No.
For my birthday one year, we lived in Birmingham. And for my birthday one year, I wanted a poster of The Italian Job, the movie. Because there's a great movie poster of that, because it's got the bus and the minis, and there's an E-Type Jag in it from on the mountainside.
Which one you mean? Yeah.
The poster's excellent, and I wanted the poster. So Julie found it. We were shopping in Chelsea or something. Anyway, we found it in London, and they didn't know. Anyway, long story short, she rang them up and they posted it up. And when it got to us, it was damaged. And I was working on a radio station in Birmingham at the time. It doesn't exist anymore. I can say BRMB. I was on there, and I was whining about this on the radio, as I tend to whine about things. And I said, this is not typical of how the Royal Mail works. Normally, you get something sent to you, and it's perfect. There's no problem at all. In fact, I'm sure we can prove it. So I went and I asked the boss. I said, I want to run a contest where we prove that the Royal Mail can deliver fragile packages. How much money can I have to give away in my contest? And he went and he looked at some sums, looked at the budgets, and he gave me £4,000.
Wow.
He said, you can do a contest for £4,000. I said, fine. So I went on the air the next day and I said, here's the deal. I want you to post me at BRMB, post me a raw egg in an unpadded envelope. You're allowed to sellotape it down. First intact raw egg I get, you win £4,000. I didn't realise that the main Royal Mail sorting office for the United Kingdom is in Birmingham. And it's automated.
Okay.
And the very expensive machine that had only been operating a couple of months was the next day completely clogged up with runny egg.
Oh, God. They have rollers, don't they? That these packages go between.
All these eggs! Thousands of them! Stop the show. Martin, you seem to be confused about some... now, Martin, let me just explain, has been flown in from Germany, especially for this program. He's an intern, which means he's learning everything. You're studying at a university college in Stuttgart?
Not in Stuttgart.
Where is it?
It's more towards the border of France. It's in Offenburg, which is sort of near Freiburg, would be the next biggest town you might know.
That's what I thought, yeah. Anyway, so you're learning everything. I'm learning about the geography of Europe through you, and you're learning everything about radio. And you say we went out for a curry because this is your last week. We went out for a curry on Friday night.
That's true.
You've noticed something as a result of the curry, something I haven't seen yet.
Yes, well, I've seen the photos yesterday. I got them sent, and I noticed that you always manage to look good on photos. You know, like some people always manage to have their eyes closed or look somehow in strange ways or whatever.
Yeah.
And you always manage to look good on photos. How do you do that?
Well, and this is true. When I'm having my photograph taken, I look down the camera as if I'm looking at Julie, my wife. I always look as if I'm looking at her.
Oh, right.
So I think something happens is I'm looking at somebody who I love. When someone looks at a photograph of me, they go, he looks like he loves me. That's my theory.
Oh, that's quite nice.
I don't know whether it's something that you can steal. If you're worried about it, if you've got something coming up, a big event or a wedding or something, look down the barrel of the camera and look at the person you love the most. And I think you'll find you take a better picture.
Bob's Breakfast.
Boaty McBoatface.
It won, didn't it?
It did.
For anyone that doesn't know, and I don't know if there is anyone that doesn't know, it's a polar exploration vessel.
That's right, £200 million polar research vessel.
That's right, and they're building it, and they had decided to have an online poll on what they should name it. So they're thinking maybe an Explorer, maybe the Scott, or the Shackleton, or the Amundsen or something.
I think David Attenborough's name was thrown in there
That's
as
what
well.
they were thinking.
Yeah.
And the most popular was Boaty McBoatface.
Yeah.
And that won, didn't it?
Well, it did, yeah. It was the runaway name in this poll. It was 124,000 votes ahead of its nearest rival, which was Poppy May. Despite the fact that this research boat, which was being created by the Natural Environment Research Council, so very important research going on here, and sort of very serious organisation. Despite the fact that they put it to that vote, they say that Boaty McBoatface, which was the clear winner in their poll for a name for this new research vessel, chances are it won't be, because at the end of the day, it's down to the scientists.
You see, well, they shouldn't have had the vote then.
They shouldn't have done.
Honestly. And these are not just scientists. These are polar scientists. I sometimes think that those scientists working at the Earth's polar axis, they think the world revolves around them.
Bob's Breakfast.
Good morning, Paul.
Good morning, Graham. How are you doing?
Very good, mate.
Daft way of injuring myself. I decided to put a picture up late one night after a heavy night in the Squirrel in Stevenage.
Right, so Drunk Logic said to you, I'm going to hang that picture right now. I'm going to do it now.
Yeah, I used a step ladder and a drill as well.
Right, okay, so there's power tools involved here and heights. Okay, what could possibly go wrong? And alcohol, yeah, what could possibly go wrong?
Oh, no, I fell off the ladder, put the ladder down, pulled a big massive chunk of plaster out the wall, smashed the picture, cracked a rib, and bruised myself all down one side. And so I sort of got up on the Saturday morning and realised what I'd done.
After this accident, you went to bed?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, as far as I can tell, anyway, yeah.
Right, okay. And it was the next morning you woke up with a broken rib?
Yes, and a living room floor covered in plaster, dust, broken picture, a ladder on its side, and a drill still where I left it. Still plugged in, still turned on, but not running.
So, were you all right in the end? You went to A&E, got all strapped up and everything?
I didn't go to A&E, but I did go to B&Q and get a new picture, a load of filler, and colour match paint to repair all the damage before the wife got back from her mum's.
I didn't go to A&E. I went to B&Q. Right.
Yes.
Right. So did you get?
I couldn't drive because I couldn't move my right arm, and I had to get someone to sort of take me down there.
So
I managed to plaster a wall and paint a wall all within 24 hours.
With a broken rib.
With a broken rib and no use of my right arm. Yeah.
Yeah, and this was also you wouldn't get into trouble with your missus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Because I know what would have been the bigger problem. I mean, nothing's worth her wrath. So.
Right, Paul, thanks very much for letting us know.
No problem, Graham.
All right. It is the Queen's actual birthday today, not to be confused with the Queen's official birthday. She gets two, Laura. Did you know why?
I don't know why.
It's a tradition that started in 1778. If the monarch's not born in the summer,
right,
they are allowed to take an official birthday as well when the weather will be nicer for a birthday.
Oh, I wish we could all do that.
Yes. Here's where it doesn't make sense. I lived in Australia for a long time. I lived in New Zealand for a long time. In Australia and New Zealand, the Queen's official birthday is a public holiday. It moves around, but it's on the nearest Monday. So you get a bank holiday weekend for the Queen's official birthday.
Right, okay.
In June, which is in winter.
Bob.
Talk weddings now. There's an app called Whisper where people are sharing what they did on their wedding night. It's not what you'd think. Doing some unusual things, playing video games, all sorts of things. David, what did you do?
I watched Match Today because Arsenal were on it against Middlesbrough and we won 2-1. It was even so bad that I, in between going from the church to the reception, in the car, the chap put nice soft music and I said, oh, any chance we can have the football on? So we listened to football as well on the way to the church.
You old romantic fool, you.
I know.
Bob's Breakfast.
Well, it's a story we can't ignore. This massive search continuing for a second day for an EgyptAir plane that disappeared over the Mediterranean. There's now Greek, Egyptian, French, UK military units all taking part in the operation near Greece's Kopathos Island, looking for this missing plane. It vanished en route from Paris to Cairo, as we know, with 66 passengers and crew when it vanished early yesterday morning. I mean, Greece was saying the radar showed this plane, a big plane, Airbus A320, had made 2 sharp turns and dropped more than about 25,000 feet before plunging into the sea. This is what they're saying the radar shows. Egypt saying the plane was more likely to have been brought down by a terrorist act than a technical fault. So there's some disagreement between the countries there.
How have they worked that? Because you shouldn't be speculating
No,
at this
you
stage
shouldn't.
when they haven't even found any wreckage. They thought they'd found wreckage.
But they haven't.
But they haven't
Turns out
found
they
any
haven't.
wreckage. It's like they want to mix it up. Surely, if it was a terrorist attack, the terrorist organisation would have claimed responsibility by now. Otherwise, what's the point?
They normally would have done, wouldn't they?
That's the whole.
It doesn't take long.
It's the reason why they do these horrific acts. Is to get publicity for their cause. So there's no point in them blowing up a plane unless they say they did it.
I think it's not helpful when you've got a country actually coming out and saying this, is it?
Yeah.
It just adds and fuels the fire of speculation.
And what are they basing it on? Because all we know, unless they know more than us, all we know is there was no warning of a terrorist attack beforehand. There's been no claim of responsibility for a terrorist attack. There were 66 people on the plane. 3 of them were air marshals. There were 3 air marshals on the plane. So it's unlikely that somebody managed to get into the cockpit with 3 air marshals on board. As well as that, usually when a bomb goes off on a plane, like in the hold of a plane or in a passenger's baggage something, that's the end of that. But no, this plane made a right turn 90 degrees and then made other turns. That's not how a terrorist... Usually it's just blown out of the sky. So that doesn't make... Where they're getting this terrorist thing, what do they know? What are they not telling us?
It's possibly putting 2 and 2 together and getting 84. I don't know. It's... There's so many questions that are unanswered at the moment. The Egyptian president has ordered the country's civil aviation ministry, army-run search and rescue centre to take all necessary measures to try and find the wreckage of this plane as well. Like you said, they've found items in the sea. Life jackets in the sea were later found not to be from this plane as well. So a lot of questions still hanging over.
Why
this
can't
inquiry
they
at the
just
moment.
say, it's too early to tell what happened. We're going to have a thorough investigation, and as soon as we know something, we'll let you know. Why can't they just leave it at that?
It would make more sense at this stage, because this morning, if there was something to say, we'd be talking about it. We'd be giving you the facts about it.
Yeah.
Yet, there's sort of countries' leaders coming out and saying, it might be this, might be that.
But they're just guessing. Their guess is as good as ours.
That's right.
They were about as connected to this flight as we are.
They were also saying that they tried to contact the pilot when he entered Greek airspace. Everything appeared normal. Then when trying to contact him again, the plane was set to enter Egyptian airspace, but despite repeated calls, the aircraft did not respond. So they don't know what happened there. And until they get this voice recorder...
Yeah.
The cockpit voice recorder again. That's kind of key
and once
to this.
Once again, cockpit voice recorder. This is a stupid system. The worst place to keep that information is on the plane.
Absolutely.
In this day and age where we've got cloud computing, where it's easy to upload information to a cloud. I have all of my stuff stored on Google Drive. I've got 95 gigabytes of information, and I'm talking movies, music, email, photographs, videos, the whole thing. I've got them all on Google Drive. It's in a cloud. I've no idea where it is. It's not on my computer. It just means any computer I go to in the world, I can access my stuff. You could have the information, the telemetry telling you what the plane's doing, you know, the position of the flaps and the tail and the engines and everything, and the voice recording from the cockpit. You could have that beamed to a cloud and stored somewhere else, anywhere in the world. But no, it's recorded on, I think it's still recorded on analog tape, isn't it?
I think it was the pilots who objected to this.
They did, because it was an invasion of privacy.
That's right.
Private conversations on the cockpit. Well, all they have to do is erase, every time the plane lands, erase the last flight. That's all they have to do. It's easy to do.
Some sort of system in place to do that.
Yeah, and because loads of, I mean, those 2 Malaysian planes that went down quickly, one after the other. There was one that was actually shot down, wasn't there? And then there was the other one. We don't know what happened to it.
That's right.
Black box voice recorder, never found. Never found. 9/11. Voice recorders, never found. The worst place to keep... they're keeping the information in the worst possible place to keep the information. You know, the airline industry has led the way on safety. You know, that's why it's been such a success. You know, other forms of transport like trains and buses and everything else has learnt from aviation about security, about what to do and how to be safe, and air crash investigations and how they do an investigation, and then they bring in policy almost straight away, changing the rules on whether there needs to be lights on. After that Manchester flight they brought that crashed at Manchester in the 80s, they brought in rules about there needs to be lights in the floor so you can find your way out, which makes sense because all the smoke's at the top and all the exit signs shouldn't be at the top. All these little things they bring in and make it safer and safer and safer, and we're still keeping the essential information in the wrong place. I'm Graham Mack, international broadcasting celebrity, you know, Laura.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Maybe not so much in this country.
Okay.
But in the United States of America, I'm a big deal. Anytime something happens in Britain, I get these calls from all these radio stations, and I go on the air on the phone and tell them what's going on.
Okay.
Now, they're usually things I know nothing about, like the royals.
Right.
I'm no royalist.
Yeah.
I don't follow the royals. But in the United States of America, I'm what they call your go-to guy.
I can see where this is going.
Yes. Yesterday, Jean and Julie, who I've met, they're lovely actually. They're a married couple. They have awards in America called the Marconi Awards for the best radio shows. Jean and Julie are the current holders. They won it. Their show's a big deal on Mix 101.5 WRAL FM. Right. And they call me regularly when something royal happens, and I blag my way through it.
Well, I don't know if you're following the news, but the Queen of England turns 90 years old tomorrow. It's a really big deal.
So we thought we'd call one of our favorite radio shows in the UK, Graham Mack. They actually call it a breakfast show.
Good morning, Graham. How are you?
Very good. And how are the Marconi winners today?
We've been dying to talk to you because the Queen is having quite a big birthday.
It is a big one. She's 90 tomorrow. I can tell you about the celebrations. We don't know all the intricate details, but we're pretty sure there won't be a stripper.
Okay.
This is Bob.
Superman is real. He actually saved a lady who was being robbed at a cash point machine in Gloucester. Bloke dressed as Superman. Now, he wasn't a superhero. He was wearing the costume for a charity thing, but he saw her being attacked through the window while he was having breakfast and ran out and helped her. So I'd like to know your fancy dress story. What's yours, Mark?
Well, my missus was going out with her friends to a fancy dress party, and I was invited, and I was like, no, I'm not going to go. But I'd made arrangements with her friends to go.
Okay.
So I went out and bought a Darth Vader outfit with a voice changer, the big black cape, the mask, everything else, the lightsaber.
Yeah.
They all went to the pub. I turned up a little bit after she had got there. She didn't know I was there. I had this mask on. She went to the bar. I stood at the bar beside her with the voice changer on and started trying to chat her up.
Right.
And she just looked at me and went, "Go away."
You freak.
Yeah, exactly. She was like, "Go away." Not interested. I was laughing, and she couldn't work out, and she was talking to her friends and like, "Oh, that bloke's trying to chat me up." And then when I took the face mask off, I got a clout around the ear roll.
Well, fair enough too.
Bob's Breakfast.
I'm Graham Mack, and I have the answer to Britain's childhood obesity epidemic. It's really simple. Data from the Health Survey for England shows that 31.2% of children aged 2 to 15 are classed as either overweight or obese. Why is that? I was a skinny kid. Most of my mates were skinny kids. We were all scrawny. Because compared to today's kids, we ate less and moved around more. That was because food was not that big a deal to us. There were only two things that mattered back then: watching TV and playing out. And when we watched TV, we did it without being exposed to shows about food. There were only two celebrity chefs: Fanny Craddock and the Galloping Gourmet. And only your mother watched them. And watching telly back then was a physical activity. To change channels, you had to get up out of your seat, walk across the room and push a button. You'd dive behind the couch to hide from the monsters on Doctor Who. And you'd rhythmically hit a younger sibling in time to the tune of all of your favourite shows. By the way, Blue Peter and the Banana Splits inflicted the most pain. As soon as a particularly good show like Thunderbirds or Captain Scarlet had finished, all the kids in the street would run outside and act out the entire show, even in the winter, when a balaclava on backwards transformed you into Spider-Man. And meal times, they were no fun at all, just boring. Mum's cooking was ordinary. Fanny and Graham Kerr never really rubbed off. We almost never ate out, and school dinners were horrible, as they should be. Now we live in different times. You can't turn on the telly without seeing someone sautéing, flambeing or pureeing. It's a constant stream of ready, steady, can't cook, won't dine with me, bake-off, MasterChef kitchen. The reason we have fat kids now is because of celebrity chefs. And I'm looking at you, Gordon, Ainsley, Nigella, Heston, Mary, and the rest, but most of all you, Jamie. Jamie Oliver. The Mockney naked chef. He's turned food into an obsession. He's made the chore of preparing meals look like fun. Cooking shows have replaced entertainment. Not only that, he's actually made food taste good. He's got mums the length and breadth of the country buying his cookbooks and making delicious meals at home. His biggest crime? He's made school dinners edible. How dare you? Now look at the size of British kids. The really sinister thing, though, about Jamie Oliver is that he's become very powerful. When he's not causing childhood obesity, he's busy cozying up to politicians and getting them to place the blame elsewhere. His latest recipe involves putting the government into a pressure cooker until they introduce a sugar tax. Unless Jamie Oliver is stopped within the next 10 years, skinny kids will be extinct.
This is Bob.
Navigational disasters and navigational stories. And Nancy, you had one that happened on a boat. What was it?
The alarm was going off and I was thinking, oh my God, we're going to have to get in the water.
Wait a second. Talk about how big was this boat?
Great big thing, ferry.
Oh, it was a ship. Where were you going to?
Ship going to France.
Right, yeah, cross channel. Right, the alarm went off. Goodness me, terrifying.
Yeah, it was. And I kept saying to people, you know, where's that alarm? Where's that alarm? Anyway, I went to see, they said, go and see the purser, I think. Went and saw this bloke, and he said, right, madam, I'll go and check. He went away, came back 2 minutes later, he said, madam, I think it's your personal alarm in your handbag. Me all the time.
Because wherever you went, you could hear this alarm. Absolutely. On every deck, everywhere, in every residence. Wow, it must be serious.
It was horrible. So, yes, that's my navigation disaster.
Thank you.
All right,
Cheers, Nancy.
Bob's Breakfast with Coast to Coast's new US-inspired menu. Who says you need a passport to experience America?
I'm Graham Mack, and I hope you're enjoying the podcast. If you are, make sure you share it on Facebook and Twitter, and you can subscribe at iTunes. So, did you watch the new Top Gear?
I flicked through it on iPlayer and stopped to the bits that were bearable.
Bearable.
Yeah,
it's pretty bad, isn't it?
It's not great.
I got to admit, I didn't watch it live when it first came on.
No.
I was watching the Twitter feed, which was incredibly entertaining.
It was brutal.
Yeah, great. And then last night, I think I did what you did. I went on the iPlayer.
Yeah.
And I kind of flicked through. And it was just car crash television, wasn't it?
Well, I watched the first 5 minutes. I thought, I want to like this.
Yes.
I want to go against all the people who say it's going to be rubbish.
Yes.
Watch 5 minutes, thought, Chris Evans. And then just flicked through a little bit more.
I mean, Matt LeBlanc didn't do much.
No, he didn't.
But because Chris Evans was so bad, he looked brilliant.
Yes.
Because he was just an antidote to this shouting idiot. A shouting idiot from the early 90s. It's weird. I've always thought that Chris Evans is just a shouty idiot. Maybe that's because I started out on the radio in Australia, where it's a whole different, it was, you know, this is the 90s, whole different style. I mean, Britain has always had the DJ, like a, you know, children's entertainer, which is what it is. Was in Australia when I was there and I first started getting into radio, you had to be really cool and you had to have a really deep voice. There was a number one station in Sydney, or number one music station was Triple M, and it was a rock station, Aussie rock. You know, it was all like In Excess and, you know, Midnight Oil and that kind of stuff. And the jocks on there, mate, they were all deep. This is Triple M. In fact, their jingles, they didn't have a singing jingle. You know, here we have, singing jingle FM was over there. Their jingle went, Triple M.
That was it.
It literally whispered. It just went, Triple M. It was very, very laid back. And so you go out to the bush, you know, I worked 6kg Kalgoorlie in Western Australia, and all the jocks on there were all trying to sound like Triple M jocks. So it'd be like, 6kg Kalgoorlie, don't forget to go down to Acropolis's kebabs. Everything was like really laid back. So when I first came to Britain in 97, and everybody's talking like this, and I'm like, what's the matter with the radio over here? It's like, I mean, there are all different styles. You know, I've been to radio conventions in America a bit, and it's different again over there. I was talking to Don Anthony, who's a consultant. I was talking to him about a presenter over there called Rush Limbaugh, who's a bit odd, and he said, you know, he used to be a puker. And I went, I'm sorry, I don't know what he'd go like, and they have this term for as a puker.
Puker.
But like Chris Evans is like beyond that. It's just, so they took a very loud man with a high voice and put him in an echoey room.
It's not the perfect combination.
Not the perfect combination, no.
You see, I wanted to like it.
Everybody
I wanted to
did.
like Chris Evans, but
you see, Top Gear, it was about ready for a reboot. It was starting to become a bit played out, and it needed to find its way for the future. But I'm sorry, they're not going to do it with Yesterday's Man. Fancy dress stories this morning. Ben, what's yours?
A few years back, a friend of mine had his 21st birthday party, and it was fancy dress.
Yeah.
My girlfriend decided to go as Catwoman, and I decided to go as Busby the BT Bird.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Great night. Really enjoyed ourselves. Unfortunately, on the way, when we got home, I'd realised I hadn't got the keys to the house.
Right.
So, as we were quite in a jolly mood, I saw a window that was open.
Yeah.
A top window on the ground floor, and I thought, you know what, I can climb through that, not a problem.
Right.
Unfortunately, after my girlfriend gave me a boost up and pushed me through, halfway through I got stuck in the window.
Right.
Whilst I was stuck halfway in with halfway out in a yellow feathered suit with orange stockings and bird feet, I heard a voice saying, "Hello, sir, what have we got here?" I looked through the window and it was a policeman.
No.
Someone had actually reported a burglary.
Right.
And whilst I tried to explain I'd been to a party and it's my house, after the fits of laughter, he phoned the station at Hitchin
Yeah.
and said, "It's a false alarm, but I've got Busby and Catwoman in custody." And all I heard was on the radio was the controller laughing, like wetting their pants. And with his assistance, he managed to push me through to the window so I could get in and get out from the other side. I think that was probably one of the most embarrassing moments of my life.
Bob's Breakfast.
An Indian man, have you seen this?
No.
He's had 366 flags tattooed on his body and all of his teeth removed to try and get more Guinness World Records to his collection. He's made these big modifications to his body so he could put nearly, and this was the aim behind it, of having all his teeth removed, so that he could put 500 drinking straws in his mouth and more than 50 burning candles as well. This is apparently a Guinness World Record.
No, hang on. So he's got the record for the most flags tattooed to his body.
That's right, yeah.
The record for the most drinking straws in his mouth.
Yep.
And burning candles?
Burning candles, yeah. And this is why he had his teeth taken out, because he wanted to cram more candles into his mouth.
Lucky it's just his mouth, because he sounds like a busy fella, and I'd hate to think he's burning the candle at both ends. Morning, Bob.
You know, I was watching an old Top Gear,
Mm-hmm.
and they were down in Australia,
right,
on a farm herding cattle, on a farm that was like 3 million square miles.
Yeah, they're big. They're big down there. Yeah.
I thought about it. I know you've been down, but when you wanted a good curry, where did you go?
Let's see. When I lived, the closest I got to living out back was when I lived in Parks in New South Wales. Because you got to remember, New South Wales, you could drive from Sydney to Broken Hill, which is 3 days drive, and you're still in New South Wales. Well, we lived in Parks, which was probably about 5 hours drive from Sydney. Sydney's on the coast. If we wanted a decent curry in Parks, we would have to drive to Sydney.
Yeah.
That would be a 10-hour round trip. Yeah. It's a big place. My first radio job was at 2PK in Parks. And I got my second, I did the afternoon show in Parks on Hits and Memories 2PK. And I was interviewed for my second job, which was at 5C Mount Gambier. I was interviewed while I was on the air. So the boss is on the phone to me saying, outside broadcasts, have you done any of this? Yes, I've done lots of those. Just hold on a second. It's a Memories 2PK. That was the Bee Gees. Today's weather, and today's weather was always just stinking hot. Anyway, at the end of the phone call, he offered me the job. And I'd been in parks for about a year at that stage. And Julie had been trying to get a job herself for the whole year. And I hung up the phone. I walked into the program director's office and I quit. And he said, "Oh, what's that?" I said, "I've been offered another job. I'm going." He said, "Oh, okay, fine. Well, good luck, whatever." So then I walked home because the radio station was at one end of the street and our flat was at the other end of the street. It wasn't far. And parks only at that stage consisted of 2 streets, and this was one of them, 2 main streets. It was called Clarinda Street. And I walked in, because, you know, it was like 7 o'clock at night or whenever I finished work, and Julie says to me, "Guess what?" And I went, No, guess what? Me first, me first. She said, No, guess what? Me first. Let me go first. And I went, "Okay, you go first." "What?" She goes, "I got a job today." And I said, "So did I." And she said, "Really? Where is it?" And I went, "You're looking at the new drive time presenter at 5SE Mount Gambier." And she went, "Mount Gambier, where's that?" And I went, "I have no idea." But it's not parks.
Yeah.
And so then we got out a map, and it turned out Mount Gambier was in another state. It was in South Australia. Now remember, we're only 5 hours inland of a state that takes 3 days to drive across, and I've got a job in another state.
Oh.
And it wasn't even the next state. The next state is Victoria. This job is in South Australia. It's in a different time zone. And, so that's Mount Gambier. Okay. Well, we're moving there. Bloke said if I can get there in 3 weeks, the job's mine. I've managed to book us 2 weeks in a hotel that the radio station will pay for, and then after that we have to find somewhere to live. So I rang up and found a cheap removals place.
Wow.
Found a cheap.
I've crossed oceans.
Yeah.
Australia just sounds so vast.
It's big. It's big. We got a removals guy. The removal guy came and on his own, and I said, "You're on your own?" He says, Yeah. He says, and he goes into the pub over the road and pays a guy to help him. So he loads all our stuff into this truck, and he sets off for Mount Gambier. So now we're in an empty flat, and our plan was we didn't have a car. The money they paid me at 2PK was so bad I couldn't afford to run a car. We didn't have a car, so I was going to rent a car, and the local Hertz dealership is actually, they sell lawnmowers, but they have rental cars, and they'd ended up with a load that people had off-hired. And the bloke says to me, "I don't know what I'm going to do with all these cars," because he didn't know what to do with them. People were like moving to parks in a rental car, just leaving it there, off-hiring it. So I'm supposed to get the car the next morning. This is like, I think, the Friday night or whatever. So he rings me up. He goes, "Here, mate, I don't want to open up on Saturday morning just for you. You're the only rental I've got this month." He goes, "How about you take the car now?" And I said, "Oh, that sounds fair." Like, he's literally over the road. Everything you can walk to. It's not that big as it. I said, "Oh yeah." He says, "But mate, it's not on hire till tomorrow. Don't be driving it till tomorrow. Just take it now. Save me opening up." I says, "Oh yeah." So I go get the car. Sister Julie, "Come on, we're off." So, I mean, what are you? We're not going to sit there another night. So we set off, taking turns driving, and it took a few days. And I looked at it on a map, and we'd driven the equivalent of London to Istanbul.
Dear Lord.
And we'd never even heard the radio station. This was before the internet. And I'd really taken a punt, and it's an AM station, and we're getting closer and closer. We're still in Victoria, and we just cross over the border into South, and we just start to hear it coming through. And for all I know, it could be terrible. But it was a really good radio station. And I went there and things really worked out. After a few months on the afternoon drive show, they gave me the breakfast show. There was a local TV station in town, and I was doing on-camera commercials for a car dealership and a supermarket. Oh, wow. And it really worked out well, the trip to Mount Gambier. And, but it was complete foolishness on my part. But you're right. It's a big old country. It's a big old continent. It's the world's biggest island. It's not far short, Australia, of the size of the United States.
Yeah.
But United States, you got 50 states. In Australia, you got, let me see, New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, I won't count Tasmania because that's an island. Northern Territory, Queensland, and Western Australia. You only got 7. I mean, you've got Australian Capital Territory, which is Canberra, but that's only one town. You've basically got 7 areas, whereas the US has got 50.
50.
These are big states. Big states. Yeah. Oh my goodness, it's a big place. Yeah. But good fun. Had a great time there.
This is Bob.
Been a lot of stories lately about whether the Spice Girls are going to get back together for a 20-year reunion. I've managed to get Geri Halliwell on the phone. She's now known as Geri Horner. Come on then, Geri. Is there going to be a Spice Girls reunion?
Would you like there to be one?
Yes!
Do you know what, Graham? I love you. But you know what? Today I'm not going to share that with you.
You're not going to see... I only mention that because there's news out today that Victoria's not keen and Mel C's already pulled out.
Oh, I think you just have to wait and see, won't you?
But if it was up to you, Geri, you know, because obviously you've got to get 5 people to agree on this. If it was up to you...
I'm going to get you up there. Do you know what? We're going to get you some hot pants and we're going to get you to a wee little bottom.
Yeah.
And you can do it.
I wouldn't look good in the Union Jack dress, I don't think. But what do you think? If it was up to you, are you up for it?
To keep you all guessing.
Oh, nicely deflected.
This is Bob FM.
Fancy dress stories this morning. What's yours, Sam?
My friends had a joint 25th birthday party.
Yeah.
And they had a theme, and it was a children's party. So I thought, I've got no idea what to go as. You know, limited funds because I wasn't being paid very well, so I couldn't go splash all out on a costume.
Uh-huh.
But I managed to find a fancy dress shop that had, it was like, God, this is going to sound awful. Please don't get the wrong idea. It was like a giant baby costume. Oh, dear God, I'm cringing now just at the thought of it. I had the big nappy, the booties, the bonnet, the bib, the whole lot.
The giant dummy?
No, I didn't have... I refused. I had that round my neck.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, anyway, my sister decided, well, you know, I'll drive you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd got ready at my mum's in Stevenage, so my sister drove me over to Chewing, sorry. And I had no cash on me, so I asked my sister to pull up at a cash point in Stevenage Old Town, so that she could go and get some money for me.
Yes, good plan.
And I gave her my card, I gave her my PIN number, and she just looked at me and she went, "No, you do it."
Oh, no!
Honest to God, Graham, I can't remember the last time I was that embarrassed. That little moo bag made me get out of her car in the middle of Stevenage Old Town, dressed as a giant baby, to get my own cash. I mean, that's just mean. And how many people were out in Stevenage Old Town at that time on a Saturday night? Lots.
Oh, no, I'm feeling your pain.
Oh, it was so embarrassing.
Bob's Breakfast.
I don't think there's a bigger story than the Hillsborough story. There are so many levels to it. On April the 15th, 1989, 96 people died when they went to watch a football match. And if you look at the names on the memorial at Anfield, or when they're printed in the papers, wherever you see that list, first thing that strikes you is how young some of the victims were. The youngest was 10 years old. 22 of them were under the age of 18. They weren't even 18. They were unlawfully killed. They did nothing wrong. But for 27 years, the fans have been blamed for causing the tragedy. The police lied on a scale I don't think we've ever seen before. They changed statements. The Sun newspaper, the next day, the day after the tragedy, ran a front page under the banner "The Truth," which said fans urinated on policemen. They beat up a policeman giving the kiss of life and picked the pockets of the dead. None of it true. And the lies stuck for 27 years. And they stuck because of prejudice. A prejudice, let's face it, against working class people, football supporters, and people from the city of Liverpool in particular. No other group in this country can be vilified in this way. You can't say someone is dishonest or a criminal just because they're black or gay or follow a particular faith, but for years it's been acceptable to use the phrase thieving scousers. And the prejudice grew, and so the lies were believed. Every time I've been to a Liverpool match, when Liverpool have played Manchester United, the families of the Hillsborough victims who've been in the crowd have had to listen to Manchester United fans chant, "Murderers, murderers, murderers." People who lost their children have had to listen to this. And so yesterday, the truth finally came out. And so on my blog, all I did was publish a poem by a bloke called Dave Kirby. The poem's called The Justice Bell. It came out on the 13th anniversary of the Hillsborough disaster. Now, I've changed 13 years to 27 years, and I changed the last line to bring it up to date. This is the Justice Bell. A schoolboy holds a leather ball in a photograph on a bedroom wall. The bed is made, the curtains drawn, as silence greets the break of dawn. The dusk gives way to morning light, revealing shades of red and white, which hang from posters locked in time of the Liverpool team of '89. Upon a pale white quilted sheet, a football kit is folded neat. A yellow scarf, trimmed with red, and some football boots beside the bed. In hope, the room wakes each day to see the boy who used to play. But once again, it wakes alone, for this young boy is not coming home. Outside, the springtime fills the air. The smell of life is everywhere. Violas bloom and tulips grow, and daffodils dance heel to toe. These should be such special times for a boy who would now be in his prime. But spring forever turns to grey in the Yorkshire sun one April day. The clock was locked at 3:06 as sun shone down upon the pitch, lighting up faces etched in pain as death descended on Lepping's Lane. Between the bars an arm is raised, amidst a human tidal wave. A young hand, yearning to be saved, grows weak inside this deathly cage. A boy not barely in his teens is lost among the dying screams. A body too frail to fight for breath is drowned below a sea of death. His outstretched arm then disappears to signal 27 years of tears. 96 souls of those who fell await the toll of the Justice Bell. Ever since that disastrous day, a vision comes my way. I reach and grab his outstretched arm, then pull him up away from harm. We both embrace with tear-filled eyes. I then awake and realize It's just the same old dream I have each week as I quietly cry myself to sleep. On the 15th of April every year, when all is calm and skies are clear, beneath a glowing Yorkshire moon, a lone Scots piper plays a tune. The tune rings out the justice cause, then blows due west across the moors. It passes the eternal flame, then engulfs a young boy's picture frame. His room is as it was that day. For 27 years, it stayed that way, untouched and frozen in time, since that tragic day in '89. And as it plays its haunting sound, tears are heard from miles around. The tears from the families of those who fell, who now can hear the justice bell.